The wind howled through the narrow alley as Elon Musk, wearing a casual jacket and jeans, stepped off his sleek Tesla Roadster. It wasn't his usual scene, a quiet roadside diner at the edge of a small town, far from the glitz of Silicon Valley. He'd stopped here to grab a quick coffee during one of his rare solitary drives. The diner looked like something out of a forgotten postcard, with a flickering neon sign and a couple of old bikes parked outside. As he approached the entrance, a group of bikers lounged near the doorway. Their jackets were patched with logos and slogans that hinted at trouble, and their laughter was loud and sharp, cutting through the night air. Elon noticed their eyes shift to him as he walked closer. He didn't flinch. Years of handling high-pressure situations had made him calm under scrutiny, but there was something about the way they looked at him that felt different. "Hey, aren't you that guy who thinks he's smarter than everyone else?" One of the bikers sneered, stepping forward. He was tall and broad, his face shadowed under a heavy beard. Elon stopped, his face calm but his mind racing. He wasn't here to argue, but their tone made it clear they weren't just looking for conversation. "Depends," Elon said evenly, his voice low but firm. "What makes you think I'm that guy?" The biker let out a sharp laugh. "You think we don't know? You're Musk, right? The genius billionaire who's trying to take over the world?" Elon felt the tension thickening in the air. He glanced briefly at the diner door, calculating the distance. Before he could respond, another biker joined in. "Why don't you show us how smart you are, huh? Maybe fix up our bikes for us." The group erupted in laughter, their voices echoing in the empty parking lot. Elon didn't reply. Instead, he shifted slightly, his stance relaxed but ready. "Look," he said, his voice steady, "I'm just here for coffee. Let's not make this bigger than it needs to be." But the bikers weren't interested in coffee. "Not so fast," the first biker said, blocking Elon's path. "You think you can just waltz in here like you own the place? How about you show us a little respect first?" Elon's jaw tightened. He knew this wasn't about respect, it was about power, about making a point. And just as he was deciding whether to stand his ground or step back, a voice cut through the tension. "Is there a problem here?" The group turned to see a man walking toward them, his steps confident but unhurried. He was wearing a plain leather jacket and jeans, but there was something about him, a sharpness in his eyes, a calm authority that made even the bikers pause. Elon's eyes narrowed slightly. The man didn't look like much at first glance, but there was something familiar about the way he carried himself. One of the bikers stepped forward, sizing him up. "Who the hell are you supposed to be?" The man didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at Elon, then back at the bikers. "I'm someone who suggests you let him go inside and have his coffee," he said, his tone level but firm. The bikers exchanged glances, their bravado faltering for just a moment. But the leader wasn't ready to back down. "Oh yeah, and what if we don't?" he said, stepping closer. The man didn't flinch. "Then we'll have a different kind of conversation. Your call." For a moment, the parking lot was silent, except for the distant hum of the wind. Then, the leader laughed again, but this time it sounded forced. "Whatever, man. He's not worth it," he said, stepping back and waving his hand. "Go ahead, Mr. Genius. Have your coffee." Elon nodded slightly, stepping past the group and into the diner. But as he passed the man who had intervened, their eyes met briefly. There was something in that look, a silent understanding, a recognition. Inside the diner, Elon ordered his coffee and sat near the window, watching as the bikers rode off, their engines roaring into the night. The man who had stepped in followed a few moments later, sitting across from him without asking. "Thanks," Elon said simply, breaking the silence. The man smiled faintly. "Don't mention it." Elon's curiosity got the better of him. "You seem like someone who's not just passing through," he said. The man shrugged. "You could say that." There was a pause before he added, almost casually, "You should be careful where you stop, though. Not everyone out here is a fan of electric cars and space rockets." Elon's eyes narrowed slightly. "And you? Are you a fan?" The man didn't answer directly. Instead, he pulled out a badge and set it on the table. "Let's just say I have an interest in keeping people like you out of trouble." FBI. Elon leaned back slightly, the pieces starting to click together. But before he could ask more, the man stood up. "Enjoy your coffee," he said, his tone light but his expression serious. "Something tells me tonight's not over yet." Elon watched him leave, his mind racing. The calm was deceptive, he could feel it in the air. Something was coming. Elon sipped his coffee, his eyes fixed on the empty parking lot outside. The roar of the bikers' engines still lingered in his ears, but it was the FBI badge that left a stronger impression. He wasn't a stranger to unusual encounters, but this one felt different. There was an edge to the man, a quiet intensity that hinted at more than he let on. The diner was nearly empty, save for a waitress in her late 50s who shuffled between tables and a couple of truckers eating silently in the corner. Elon's phone buzzed on the table, but he ignored it, his focus still on the man who had just walked out. Moments later, the door swung open again, and Elon instinctively glanced up. It wasn't the FBI agent. This time it was one of the bikers. The same tall, broad man who had blocked his path earlier. His leather jacket was unzipped now, revealing a dark t-shirt, and his expression had shifted from mockery to something much colder. Elon set his cup down slowly, his mind already working through possible scenarios. The biker scanned the room, his gaze landing on Elon like a hunter spotting his prey. He sauntered over, pulling out the chair opposite Elon and sitting down without asking. "You know, I don't like being embarrassed," the biker said, his voice low and gravelly. Elon stayed calm, his face unreadable. "I didn't mean to embarrass you." The biker smirked, leaning forward. "Maybe not, but now you owe me." Elon raised an eyebrow. "Owe you for what?" "For walking in here like you're better than us," the biker said, his voice dripping with menace. "For thinking some guy with a badge is going to save your skin." Elon didn't respond right away. He noticed the waitress glance over nervously before quickly looking away. The tension was thick, and he knew the wrong word could escalate things fast. "I don't owe you anything," Elon said finally, his voice steady. "But if you're looking for trouble, I'm not interested." The biker's smirk widened, but before he could respond, the door opened again. This time it wasn't just one person, it was the rest of the biker gang. They filed in one by one, their boots echoing against the tile floor. The truckers in the corner exchanged uneasy glances, and the waitress froze behind the counter, her hands trembling slightly. Elon's eyes flicked to the group, then back to the man in front of him. He could feel the weight of the situation pressing down, but he forced himself to stay calm. "You see," the biker said, leaning back in his chair, "we don't like it when people mess with us. And that guy with the badge, he's not here now, is he?" Before Elon could respond, the door swung open one more time. This time it wasn't a biker or a diner customer. It was the FBI agent. He walked in slowly, his expression calm but his eyes sharp, taking in the scene. "Looks like I got here just in time," he said, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. The bikers turned to face him, their body language shifting from confidence to unease. The agent didn't flinch, his gaze steady as he stepped closer. "Gentlemen," he said, his tone polite but firm, "I think it's time you left." The leader of the bikers stood up, his face twisted in anger. "And who's going to make us?" The agent smiled faintly, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You really want to find out?" For a moment, no one moved. The bikers were clearly torn between their bravado and the quiet authority of the man standing before them. Finally, the leader spat on the floor and motioned to his crew. "Let's go," he said, his voice laced with bitterness. "This place isn't worth it." One by one, the bikers filed out, their boots thudding against the floor. The leader was the last to leave, pausing in the doorway to shoot Elon a look that promised this wasn't over. As the door swung shut behind them, the agent turned to Elon, his expression unreadable. "You all right?" Elon nodded, though his mind was still racing. "I guess I owe you a thank you," he said. The agent shook his head. "Don't thank me yet," he said. "Something tells me this isn't the last we'll see of them." Elon frowned. "What do you mean?" The agent didn't answer right away. Instead, he glanced out the window, his hand resting lightly on his hip, where Elon noticed the faint outline of a holstered weapon. "They're not just bikers," the agent said finally, his voice low. "And you're not just some guy getting coffee. This is bigger than you think." Elon stared at him, the weight of the words sinking in. He didn't know exactly what the agent meant, but he could feel it. The night wasn't over, not by a long shot. Elon watched the agent's face carefully, his mind racing to connect the dots. "What do you mean, bigger than I think?" he asked, his voice steady but edged with curiosity. The agent glanced toward the parking lot, where the fading rumble of the bikers' motorcycles could still be heard in the distance. He seemed to measure his words carefully before answering. "They're part of something much larger," he said, his tone low and deliberate. Not just a random gang causing trouble. They're connected to a network, illegal arms, smuggling, and sometimes worse. Elon leaned back slightly, his expression shifting from calm to cautious intrigue. And you're saying this has something to do with me? The agent's lips pressed into a thin line. Let's just say your name carries weight in more places than you realize. You've got allies, sure, but enemies too, people who think your influence is dangerous, people who don't want to see the changes you're pushing. Elon considered this. It wasn't the first time he'd been warned about enemies lurking in the shadows, but it felt different now, more immediate, more personal. He studied the agent again, trying to read between the lines. And these bikers? Elon asked. They're just a piece of the puzzle? The agent nodded. A piece, but a dangerous one. They don't act alone. Someone's pulling their strings, and judging by how they're moving, they're not done yet. The weight of the agent's words hung in the air. Elon's mind shifted into overdrive, analyzing every possible angle. He wasn't one to back down from a challenge, but the stakes felt higher now. What's your angle in all of this? Elon asked finally, his voice probing but not accusatory. The agent met his gaze without flinching. My job is to protect people, even when they don't know they're in danger. You walked into their territory tonight without realizing it. That makes you a target. And now, so am I. Elon let out a slow breath, the reality of the situation sinking in. So what do we do now? The agent leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. We stay ahead of them. They'll be watching, waiting for another opening. But I've got resources, and I'm guessing you do too. Elon smirked faintly. You could say that. Before the conversation could go further, the soft chime of the diner door opening drew their attention. The waitress froze mid-step, her eyes widening as a man in a suit walked in. He was tall, with sharp features and a presence that immediately commanded attention. His polished shoes clicked against the floor as he approached their table. The agent stiffened, his hand instinctively moving toward his hip. Who are you? He asked, his tone suddenly sharp. The man held up his hands, a slight smile on his lips. Relax, Agent Cole. I'm not here to cause trouble. In fact, I'm here to help. Elon's eyes narrowed. And who exactly are you? The man turned to Elon, his smile widening. Let's just say I represent certain interests that align with yours. But we need to talk privately. Agent Cole didn't move, his stance still tense. Anything you have to say, you can say in front of me. The man chuckled lightly. I appreciate your dedication, but this isn't about the Bureau. It's about protecting something much bigger. Mr. Musk, your work puts you in the crosshairs of people who fear change. My job is to make sure you survive long enough to finish what you've started. Elon exchanged a quick glance with the agent, his instincts telling him that this man was playing a game of his own. And what's in it for you? Elon asked, his voice calm but direct. The man's expression didn't falter. Let's just say if you succeed, we all win. But if you fail, he let the sentence hang in the air, his meaning clear without needing to elaborate. Agent Cole stepped forward, his hand hovering near his weapon. You're not saying anything useful, and I don't trust people who talk in riddles. So unless you've got something concrete. The man interrupted smoothly. I do. He reached into his jacket pocket slowly, his movements deliberate. Both Elon and Cole tensed, but instead of a weapon, he pulled out a small envelope and placed it on the table. Inside, you'll find information on the people pulling the biker strings, the man said. Names, locations, and their next move. Use it wisely. Elon eyed the envelope warily. And what's the catch? The man's smile faded slightly. No catch. Just a warning, once you open that, there's no going back. The choices you make from here on out will determine more than just your safety. They'll determine the future. Without another word, the man turned and walked out, leaving a heavy silence in his wake. Elon and Cole stared at the envelope on the table, the weight of the decision ahead pressing down on them both. Whatever was inside, it was clear that opening it would change everything. Elon's hand hovered over the envelope for a moment, hesitation flickering across his face. He wasn't one to back down from a challenge, but something about this felt different. The stakes weren't just personal anymore, they were global. Agent Cole broke the silence, his voice steady but firm. If you're opening that, you need to be ready for what's inside. No turning back. Elon met his gaze, his lips curling into a faint, determined smile. Turning back was never an option. With that, he picked up the envelope and slid a finger under the flap, tearing it open. Inside, there was a single sheet of paper densely packed with typed names, addresses, and cryptic instructions. At the top of the page, bold letters spelled out, Operation Crossfire. Cole leaned in, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the document. I've heard whispers about this, but nothing concrete. If this is legit, it's bigger than I thought. Elon's eyes stopped on a name that jumped out at him, Marcus Vinton, the same name he'd encountered before during a heated corporate acquisition, a man who had seemingly disappeared off the grid after their deal fell through. Vinton, Elon murmured. He was a problem before. Looks like he's back. Cole pointed to a set of coordinates printed on the bottom of the page. These are locations, probably hideouts or meeting points. This one here, he trailed off, his face darkening. It's not far from here. Elon straightened up, his mind already formulating a plan. So we go there. Cole shook his head. Not so fast. If this is Crossfire, it's not just about showing up. These guys don't play by the rules. We need to be smart, figure out what they're planning before they figure out we're on to them. Before Elon could respond, his phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at the screen, a blocked number. With a cautious swipe, he answered. Elon Musk, he said, his voice calm but alert. A deep, gravelly voice came through the line. Mr. Musk, I see you've received our little message. Elon's grip on the phone tightened. Who is this? The voice chuckled darkly. Someone who knows you better than you think. But that's not important right now. What matters is that you stop whatever you're planning, walk away, and we let this slide. Keep digging, and you'll regret it. Elon's jaw clenched. You think you can intimidate me? No, the voice replied smoothly. I think you underestimate what you're up against. You've built rockets, cars, and dreams, but this isn't your arena. One wrong move, and everything you've worked for, everything you care about will be gone. The line went dead. Elon set the phone down, his expression unreadable. They're watching us. Cole stood, his eyes scanning the diner's windows. If they called, they're close. We need to move. Elon nodded, his resolve hardening. Then let's move fast. As they stepped outside, the night air was crisp, and the parking lot was eerily quiet. The faint glow of streetlights illuminated the sleek contours of Elon's car, but something felt off. Cole noticed it too, his hand instinctively reaching for his weapon. Elon, he said cautiously, his voice low. Stay close. Before they could take another step, the roar of engines broke the silence. From the shadows, motorcycles appeared, their headlights cutting through the darkness like piercing eyes. The bikers were back, and this time they weren't alone. Behind them, a black SUV rolled into view, its tinted windows concealing whoever was inside. Cole stepped in front of Elon, his stance protective. Get to the car, he ordered. Elon hesitated for a fraction of a second before nodding. As he moved, one of the bikers shouted, You've been warned, Musk. This is your last chance. Elon turned briefly, his voice calm but firm. You've made your point. Now let me make mine. Before anyone could react, Elon pressed a button on his phone. Instantly, his car's headlights flared to life, and the unmistakable hum of its automated defense systems filled the air. The bikers hesitated, their bravado faltering as the car's sleek exterior shifted, revealing hidden drones and sensors that began to deploy. Cole smirked, his grip tightening on his weapon. Looks like you came prepared after all. Elon didn't respond, his focus locked on the unfolding scene. The bikers revved their engines, clearly torn between advancing and retreating. And then, from the SUV, the back door opened. A man stepped out, his silhouette striking against the dim light. Elon Musk, the man called out, his voice carrying a chilling authority. Let's see how far you're willing to go. The man who emerged from the SUV was tall, dressed sharply in a tailored black suit that contrasted with the rough appearance of the bikers around him. His face was partially obscured by the shadows, but his presence radiated control, someone who was used to giving orders and having them followed. Cole tensed, his eyes narrowing. I know that guy, he muttered under his breath. Elon glanced at him, curiosity piqued. Who is he? That's Marcus Vinton, Cole replied grimly. The one name on that list you mentioned earlier. If he's here, this isn't just about you anymore. This is bigger. Vinton stepped forward, his polished shoes clicking on the pavement, the sound unnervingly calm amid the tension. Elon, he said, his voice almost cordial. You're meddling in something you don't understand. Elon stood his ground, his expression unwavering. And you're threatening someone you shouldn't underestimate. Vinton chuckled, a low, menacing sound. Always the idealist. Always thinking you can fix the world with technology and good intentions. But this, he gestured around him, as if to encompass the situation. This is a different game, and you're out of your depth. Elon didn't flinch. You think intimidation and theatrics are going to stop me? You clearly don't know me as well as you think. The bikers shifted restlessly, their engines rumbling like an ominous growl. Cole's hand hovered near his sidearm, his stance ready for anything. Let me make this simple, Vinton said, his voice suddenly sharp. Hand over the list. Walk away. Pretend you never saw it. If you do, I promise no harm will come to you or your empire. But if you don't... Vinton snapped his fingers and one of the bikers stepped forward, pulling a baseball bat from his bike. Another pulled out a crowbar. The rest followed suit, armed and clearly ready for violence. Cole leaned toward Elon, speaking just loud enough for him to hear. We need an exit strategy. Now? Elon's eyes darted to his car, its automated defenses still humming quietly. He pressed another button on his phone, and the car emitted a series of rapid beeps. Moments later, the small drones that had been concealed within its chassis sprang to life, buzzing into the air with precision. The bikers froze, their confidence wavering as the drones formed a protective barrier around Elon and Cole, their blinking lights and subtle hum giving off an air of futuristic menace. You've got guts, I'll give you that, Vinton said, his tone dark but impressed. But this won't end the way you think it will. Elon took a step forward, his voice calm but commanding. You're right. It won't end the way you think either. Before Vinton could respond, the drone suddenly emitted a piercing sound like a siren, disorienting the bikers. They stumbled back, covering their ears as the sound intensified. In the confusion, Elon and Cole moved quickly, slipping into the car. Go, Cole shouted as the doors sealed shut. The car's engine roared to life, and it sped off, leaving the chaos behind. But as they drove away, Elon's mind wasn't on the immediate escape. What do we know about Vinton? He asked, his tone thoughtful, almost analytical. Cole glanced at him, still catching his breath. More than I'd like and less than we need. He's been linked to underground organizations, tech theft, corporate espionage, even political blackmail. But nothing ever sticks. He's untouchable. Elon nodded, his focus intense. Then we need to change that. Cole raised an eyebrow. And how do you propose we do that? Elon glanced at the envelope still clutched in his hand, the coordinates and names now burned into his memory. We follow the trail, wherever it leads. Cole sighed, a mix of frustration and admiration. You're really not going to back down, are you? Elon gave him a small, determined smile. Not a chance. As the city lights blurred past, both men knew this was only the beginning. Whatever lay ahead, it was bound to test them in ways neither could predict. And somewhere, in the darkness, Vinton was already planning his next move. The car hurtled through the city streets, its AI-assisted navigation effortlessly avoiding traffic. Inside, the tension was palpable. Elon stared at the screen of his phone, scanning the data from the envelope. It wasn't just a list of names, it was a web, connecting powerful people and shadowy organizations to something much darker. Vinton isn't just covering for himself, Elon said, his voice low but steady. He's protecting an entire network. This isn't about me. This is about something much bigger. Cole leaned back, his jaw tight. I've seen this kind of thing before. When people like Vinton get involved, it's never clean, and it's never safe. You sure you want to keep pushing this? Elon's gaze didn't waver. If not me, then who? Cole sighed, shaking his head. You're impossible. Just then, the car's system interrupted. Incoming call. Secure line. Elon tapped the screen and a voice crackled to life. It was female, calm but urgent. Elon, it's Maya. Maya was one of the most trusted members of his inner circle, a cybersecurity expert who had helped Elon outmaneuver corporate spies more times than he could count. I was wondering when you'd call, Elon said. I'm tracking the drones, Maya began, her voice clipped. And the data they sent back isn't good. Those bikers? They're not just hired muscle. They're connected to a shell company that links back to something called Project Dominion. Ever heard of it? Elon's eyebrows furrowed. No, but I'm guessing I'm about to. Dominion's been whispered about in some circles, Maya continued. It's rumored to be a clandestine project aimed at controlling tech monopolies, leveraging them for political gain. The names in that envelope? Some of them are key players. And if Vinton is involved, it means they're using you as a pawn or trying to take you off the board entirely. Cole let out a low whistle. This just keeps getting better. Elon leaned forward, his mind racing. What else do you have on this project? Not much, Maya admitted. But I did some digging into Vinton. He's been buying up patents, autonomous weapons, surveillance tech, Even AI behavioral manipulation algorithms. Whatever he's planning, it's not small. The silence hung in the car as the implications sank in. What's our next move? Elon asked. Maya hesitated. Honestly, lay low. Let me dig deeper and get you more intel. But whatever you do, don't go to the coordinates in that envelope. It's a trap. Elon smirked faintly. Noted. The call ended and Cole turned to him, his expression incredulous. Please tell me you're not actually considering going there. Elon shrugged, the faintest hint of mischief in his eyes. If it's a trap, that means it's important. Cole groaned. You're going to get us both killed. The car came to a smooth stop outside a sleek, nondescript building, one of Elon's private facilities. He stepped out, followed by Cole, who was muttering something about needing hazard pay. Inside, the facility buzzed with activity. Engineers and researchers were hunched over computers, while prototypes of cutting-edge technology gleamed under bright lights. Maya was waiting for them in the control room, her expression grim. I told you to lay low, she said as soon as she saw them. And I ignored you, Elon replied, his tone light but resolute. Maya crossed her arms. Typical. What's your plan? Elon placed the envelope on the table and spread out its contents. We need to figure out why this list exists, what Dominion is really about, and why Vinton's so desperate to bury it. And to do that, we need to go to the source. Maya looked at him like he'd lost his mind. You're serious? Elon nodded. Always. Cole sighed heavily. Guess we're all in now. Maya shook her head, a mixture of frustration and admiration. Fine, but if we're doing this, we're doing it my way. No more cowboy stunts. Elon grinned. Deal. But even as they started laying out their next steps, none of them could shake the feeling that they were walking into something far more dangerous than they anticipated. And somewhere, far from the hum of the facility, Marcus Vinton was watching, his own plans falling into place. The plan was set, but the atmosphere was thick with unease. Maya had pulled up a map, marking out several locations tied to Vinton's shell companies, each one a potential lead in their quest to uncover the truth behind Project Dominion. Elon studied the map, his mind already racing ahead to the next move. He had always thrived on the edge, but this was something different, something dangerous. Vinton's not just playing a game anymore, Elon muttered, his eyes scanning the screen. He's trying to create a system, a network that controls everything. Maya glanced at him. And he's using you to do it. Elon nodded, his gaze steely. I'm not going to be a pawn, not this time. Cole, still looking like he'd rather be anywhere else, frowned. So what's the plan? We just start digging into Vinton's network and hope we don't end up 6 feet under. We start by tracking where the money's going, Elon said. We'll hit the shell companies, and we won't stop until we find the core of this project. Maya pressed a few buttons on her console. We have one major issue, though. Vinton's people are everywhere. There's no way we can move without being noticed. Elon looked at her, a small smile forming. Then we'll make sure they notice us, but on our terms. Maya's brow furrowed. You've got something in mind? Elon leaned back, his mind already forming the plan. We'll use their own tech against them. I'll need you to hack into their network, find their weak points, and give us a way in. We'll need full access, Maya. No shortcuts. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. All right, but you'll owe me one, big time. Deal, Elon said, not even thinking twice. The next few hours were a whirlwind of action. Maya worked furiously at the control station, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she bypassed firewalls and cracked encryption codes. Elon and Cole prepared for their next move, checking their gear and ensuring the drones were ready for deployment. The tension in the air was thick, each second stretching longer than the last. Finally, Maya gave a sharp nod. We're in, but we don't have much time before they realize what's happening. Elon's eyes gleamed with determination. Then let's make it count. They piled into the car once more, their path now clear. The cityscape rushed by, a blur of lights and shadows as they headed toward their first target, a nondescript warehouse on the outskirts of town. The location was tied to one of Vinton's shell companies, a front for something far more sinister. As the car pulled up, Elon felt a rush of anticipation. They were about to confront the heart of this operation, but deep down, he knew the real danger lay not in what they would find, but in what Vinton would do to stop them. The warehouse was eerily quiet. No guards, no signs of life. It looked abandoned, exactly the kind of place people like Vinton would use to hide in plain sight. We're going in through the back, Elon said, his voice calm but firm. Maya checked her wrist monitor, her eyes scanning the data. There's an encrypted communication channel running through the building. Looks like Vinton's people are still monitoring it, but we can't risk it. Elon nodded. We'll disable it once we're inside. They crept toward the back entrance, the sound of their footsteps muffled by the cold night air. Elon's mind was focused, his senses heightened. This was at the moment where everything could change. They pushed open the back door, the hinges creaking in protest, but no alarms sounded. Inside, the warehouse was as silent as it had appeared. Rows of unmarked crates lined the walls, their contents hidden beneath layers of plastic. It was clear that Vinton's people had been using this place to store something valuable, something they didn't want anyone to see. Spread out, Elon whispered, his voice barely audible. We need to find whatever they're hiding. They moved swiftly, methodically, checking every crate, every corner. As they worked their way deeper into the warehouse, the tension grew. They could feel the presence of something big, something dangerous, lurking just beyond their reach. And then, as if on cue, Maya froze. Found it. Elon and Cole quickly joined her, peering over her shoulder at the glowing screen of her wrist monitor. There, hidden in the back of one of the crates, was a set of blueprints detailed, complex and chilling. Elon's heart skipped a beat as he recognized the design. It's a weapon, he said, his voice low with realization. Maya nodded. But not just any weapon. This is the kind of tech that could change the balance of power forever. Elon stepped back, his mind racing. This is what Vinton's been building. And now we know why he's been so desperate to stop us. Cole's voice broke through his thoughts. We need to get out of here, fast. But as the words left his mouth, a low rumble echoed through the building. The ground beneath them seemed to tremble. A voice crackled through the warehouse's intercom system. You're not going anywhere. Elon's blood ran cold. They were surrounded. The intercom crackled again, followed by the unmistakable sound of heavy boots echoing through the building. Elon's mind raced, calculating their options in an instant. There was no way they could fight their way out of this, at least, not without losing everything. They needed to think fast. We need to move, now, Elon hissed. Maya's eyes darted across the room, scanning for any possible escape route. There's a side exit in the back, but it's going to be heavily guarded. Elon didn't hesitate. We don't have a choice. We take it. He quickly motioned for Maya and Cole to follow, and they began moving toward the back of the warehouse, staying low and silent. Every step felt like an eternity, each sound magnified in the silence that surrounded them. They reached the narrow hallway that led to the side exit, but before they could make it any further, the unmistakable sound of automatic weapons being cocked echoed through the corridor. Not so fast, a voice called out, cold and mocking. A group of Vinton's men stepped into view, their weapons aimed directly at the trio. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The only choice left was to fight or surrender. Elon's heart raced, but his mind stayed sharp. We're not looking for trouble. Just let us walk out of here, and we'll leave quietly. The man in the front, tall, broad-shouldered, with a scar running down his cheek, chuckled. You think Vinton's just going to let you walk away after all the damage you've caused? You've seen too much. And now you're going to pay the price. Elon glanced around quickly, eyes locking with Maya's. He could see the fear in her eyes, but there was also a flicker of determination. She wasn't going to back down. Neither was he. We don't have to do this, Elon said, his voice steady, though his pulse was pounding in his ears. You can let us go now, or you can deal with what happens next. The scarred man laughed, a harsh, grating sound. You're in no position to make demands, Musk. Your little game is over. Before he could finish the sentence, the building shook again, this time, more violently. The lights flickered, and the sound of gunfire erupted in the distance. The group of men froze, their attention split between Elon and the noise that seemed to be coming from all directions. What's going on? One of the guards muttered, his grip on his weapon loosening just slightly. Elon took advantage of the momentary distraction. That's our cue. He didn't wait for them to react. In one fluid motion, he lunged toward the nearest guard, grabbing the barrel of the gun and twisting it out of the man's hand. The guard stumbled backward in shock, and before he could recover, Elon threw a swift punch, knocking him out cold. Maya and Cole didn't waste a second. They were already on the move, taking out the other guards with precision, their training kicking in. The scarred man shouted, trying to rally his team, but it was too late. In the chaos, he turned and fled, yelling for backup. But Elon didn't waste time chasing him. He grabbed Maya's arm. Let's go, we're almost out. They ran toward the side exit, where another explosion rocked the building. It was close, too close. The door was almost within reach when a figure appeared in the doorway, blocking their path. It was Vinton. He stood there calm and collected, as if everything was going according to plan. You thought you could just waltz in here and take what you wanted? Vinton's voice was cold, calculating. I knew you'd come, and I knew you'd try to stop me, but you've made a grave mistake. Elon's eyes narrowed. This ends now, Vinton. Vinton's lips curled into a cruel smile. You think you've won? You're just a pawn in a game you don't even understand. Before Elon could respond, Vinton pressed a button on a hidden device in his hand. The ground beneath them shook violently, and a blinding light flashed. Elon barely had time to react as the world around him seemed to implode. He felt his body being thrown backward, crashing into a wall, his vision going dark for a moment. When he regained his senses, everything had changed. They were no longer in the warehouse. They were somewhere else, somewhere far more dangerous. A high-tech underground facility, walls lined with monitors and equipment Elon had never seen before. Maya groaned beside him, pushing herself up. What the hell is this place? Elon didn't answer immediately. His mind was racing. The game had just changed. They were deeper in Vinton's web now, and he had no idea how they were going to get out. But one thing was certain. They weren't done yet. The real fight was just beginning. Elon rubbed his head, the sharp pain from the impact still lingering, but it was the situation that consumed his thoughts. The sound of his pulse thudded in his ears as he tried to make sense of the stark, unfamiliar surroundings. It wasn't just any underground facility. This place reeked of high-level secrecy, like something out of a science fiction thriller. The metallic scent of the air, the hum of machinery, the glow of harsh fluorescent lights, it all felt wrong. Maya had already pulled herself to her feet, her eyes darting around. Elon, this is bad. He didn't have time to respond. There was no time for fear now. They needed a plan, and fast. We need to find out where we are, Elon said, his voice calm despite the chaos swirling inside him. Stay sharp. Cole, who had been knocked out momentarily but was now back on his feet, nodded. Where do we go from here? Elon surveyed their surroundings, trying to make sense of the high-tech monitors, the blinking lights, the machines that appeared to be monitoring something. Data streamed across several screens, but it was all a blur to him. Whatever was happening here had anticipated. Just then, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway. Fast, deliberate steps. We don't have much time, Elon muttered. We need to move. They didn't have a choice. They rushed down the corridor, the walls feeling like they were closing in. Every door they passed seemed to lead to another level of darkness and danger, but they pressed on. As they turned a corner, they stumbled upon a group of men in black tactical gear, armed to the teeth. They were too close to ignore. Maya moved first, her instincts sharp as ever. We've got company, she whispered, positioning herself between Elon and the threat. The men in black didn't hesitate. One of them raised his weapon, but before he could pull the trigger, a voice rang out from behind them. Hold it. A man stepped forward from the shadows. His face was familiar, Vinton, but this time something was different. There was no sneer on his face, no arrogance. His expression was calculating. Elon tensed. Vinton, what the hell is going on here? Vinton smiled thinly. You should have known it wasn't going to be this easy. You think you've won. You think you can just walk away. Elon's eyes narrowed. I'm not walking away. Not without answers. Vinton's smile faded, replaced with a dark look. You're already too deep in this to turn back. You've seen too much, Musk. This operation is bigger than anything you could possibly understand. Elon's heart began to race. What are you talking about? Before Vinton could respond, the facility jolted, the lights flickering as an alarm blared across the room. Something was happening, and it wasn't good. A voice came over the intercom, cutting through the tension. Security breach in Sector C. Code red. All personnel report immediately. Vinton's eyes widened in momentary panic, but then he quickly regained composure. Looks like you're not the only ones causing trouble. Without another word, he motioned for his men to move. They turned and started running in the opposite direction, and Elon didn't hesitate. He grabbed Maya's arm and pulled her along. Come on, he urged. We don't have much time. They sprinted down the hall, the sound of footsteps and alarms echoing behind them. It was chaos that Elon had no time to decipher. He had a feeling that whatever was going on here was bigger than any corporate scandal, any political intrigue. This was something that could change everything. They came to another set of doors, this one reinforced with metal, and with a single glance, Elon knew what they had to do. "We're going through," he said. "On 3. Maya nodded, understanding the plan. 1, 2. Before Elon could finish the count, the door slammed open, and a group of heavily armed soldiers poured into the room, their guns raised, their eyes cold. Elon's mind raced, and before he could process the situation, he saw something that made his heart stop. A familiar face, Cole, his ally, the one person who had been by his side throughout this ordeal, was standing behind the soldiers, his hands raised in surrender. Elon's stomach twisted. "Cole." But before he could say anything else, Cole spoke, his voice steady. "It's not what you think, Elon." The words hit Elon like a punch to the gut. Cole was with them now. "Is this a joke?" Elon's voice cracked, disbelief creeping in. Cole didn't flinch. "This isn't just about you. This is bigger than all of us." Elon's mind spun. He couldn't make sense of it. His best friend, someone he trusted, was standing with the enemy. But before he could react, the ground beneath him trembled again, the alarms blaring louder. The lights flickered wildly, and a massive crash erupted from somewhere deeper within the facility. Something was coming, something dangerous, and they were all about to find out just how deep this conspiracy went. The chaos continued to intensify, shaking the very foundation of the underground facility. Elon's heart pounded in his chest as the tremors reverberated through the walls. His mind raced, trying to process the shocking revelation about Cole. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was something much bigger. "Elon, listen to me," Cole shouted, his voice urgent but calm. He stepped closer, his hands still raised in surrender. "You don't understand. They've been watching you for years." Elon took a step back, feeling a cold wave of fear wash over him. "Watching me? Who? Who the hell are these people, Cole?" Cole lowered his hands, his eyes flickering between the soldiers and Elon. "You think this is just about some tech rivalry or political power games? This is global, Musk. It's about control. They've been pulling strings for decades, and your ideas, your influence are a threat to everything they've built." Maya stood next to Elon, her gaze locked on Cole, her suspicion growing. "Who are they, Cole? Who's behind all this?" Before Cole could answer, the facility shook again, and the blaring alarms suddenly stopped. Silence followed, a silence so heavy it felt suffocating. Elon's instincts kicked in. "We need to move. Now." The soldiers didn't react immediately, still processing the situation. Vinton's men were nowhere in sight, and the chaos seemed to have frozen for just a brief moment. But Elon knew better. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. "Where's the exit?" Maya demanded, her voice sharp. Cole nodded, his face grim. "Follow me." Without another word, Cole turned, leading them down a dark hallway. The fluorescent lights flickered sporadically, casting long shadows that seemed to twist and stretch unnaturally. Elon followed, his mind spinning with questions, but there was no time for answers now. They had to get out. As they ran, Cole finally spoke again, his voice low, almost a whisper. "This isn't just about you, Elon. They've been watching everyone with the potential to disrupt their power, people like you, people like me." Elon shot him a look. "You were one of them, weren't you? All this time?" Cole's eyes hardened, but there was a flicker of guilt there. "I didn't have a choice. You think I wanted to be part of this? They have leverage, Musk. They've been manipulating the tech world, the governments, everything." Maya clenched her fists. "So what? We're just pawns in their game." "That's what they want you to think," Cole said. "But you can't beat them alone. You need more people. People who know the truth. People who understand how deep this goes." They reached a locked door at the end of the hall, and Cole quickly input a code, unlocking it with ease. The door opened, revealing a large, dimly lit room. In the center stood a massive computer terminal, surrounded by several monitors flashing images of news headlines and world events unrelated, at first glance, but to Elon, it all seemed connected. "This is where it all comes together," Cole said, gesturing to the terminal. "They monitor everything, every tech breakthrough, every political shift, every move. You, Musk, you were just another piece in their plan. But now you're in too deep." Elon's mind was reeling. He stepped closer to the terminal, the screens displaying encrypted files, each one more revealing than the last. He scanned through them quickly, his eyes widening as he realized the scale of what was happening. These weren't just petty secrets. These were operations, global operations affecting the world's leaders, influencing governments, shaping public opinion. "What is this?" Elon whispered. Cole took a deep breath. "This is where they control the world's narrative. And you're about to become part of that narrative, whether you want to or not." Elon turned to face him, his voice trembling with fury. "No, I won't be anyone's puppet." Before Cole could respond, a loud bang echoed from the hallway. The door slammed shut, locking them inside. Panic set in as the sound of boots pounding down the corridor grew louder. "We've got company," Maya said, her voice steady but urgent. Elon's mind raced. He had to make a choice, fight or run. But where could they go? They were trapped in a high-tech facility, surrounded by enemies on all sides. "We can't stay here," Elon said, his voice cutting through the tension. "We need a way out, and we need it now." Cole looked at him, his expression unreadable. "There's no way out of here, Elon. Not without their permission." Maya grabbed Elon's arm, pulling him towards another door at the far side of the room. "Don't listen to him. We make our own way out." Just as they reached the door, the lights flickered again, and then darkness. The room plunged into blackness, and the air felt heavy, as if the entire building had stopped moving. Then the unmistakable sound of metal grinding against metal echoed from above. The facility was changing. Everything was shifting. Elon felt his breath catch. The situation had just gone from bad to worse, and he had no idea what was waiting for them on the other side of this door. But one thing was clear: there was no turning back now.